Political commentator Ben Shapiro traded blows online with comedian Dave Smith on Wednesday.
Smith drew some pushback for comments he made about America and Israel when he went on Piers Morgan's show. Here was some of that.
I've heard the talking point a million times that Iran is the #1 sponsor of terrorism. It is something that the war hawks love to say. I have actually never once heard a coherent definition of terrorism and then a demonstration that they're the worst of it. The IDF is the worst terrorist organization in the region. Let's get real. The United States of America is arguably the worst terrorist organization in the world. If you want to look over the last 25 years, how many innocent civilians we've slaughtered.
Shapiro played that clip on his own show and then went on to accuse Smith of hating America.
I'm sorry, but you hate the country if you say America is the worst terrorist organization in the world. You just do. To make that argument, you have to deliberately obscure the difference between actual terrorists who actually are seeking deliberately to kill innocent people in the name of politics, not collateral damage, deliberately seeking to kill innocent people, and nation states who are seeking to avoid civilian casualties, often while fighting those actual terrorists.
Shapiro went on saying that Dave Smith will probably want to debate him on the subject, but Shapiro has no interest in doing that.
Now, I know that Dave Smith is super duper excited that his name was mentioned here. And he's sitting there shouting at his TV screen in his basement, "Debate me, bro!" To which I answer, nah. I don't debate with trolls who claim that America is the biggest terrorist state in the world because that is idiotic.
Dave Smith did respond to Shapiro's comments, writing on X, "Man, that Ben Shapiro is an angry little guy. He insulted me a bunch on his show today, and then once again said he refuses to debate me. The thing is this, no one really cares anymore, Ben. I'd still do it, of course, because it's easy work. But the debate is already over, and we've won. After branding yourself the free speech debate guy, you refuse to debate any competent critic of Israel or the warfare state. We have arguments, and all you have is the lowest IQ insults. You hate America. People saw that."
And speaking of the conflict with Iran, the Senate voted on Wednesday against a war powers resolution that would have restricted President Trump's ability to continue using military force against the country.
The vote went largely along party lines, with Rand Paul being the only Republican to support the measure, John Fetterman being the only Democrat to vote against it. The House of Representatives will hold a similar vote on Thursday. I would not, I'm more along with Dave Smith on a lot of these foreign policy things.
Would you like to see that debate?
Yes and no. I think, I think you should, you look weak if you're always wanting to do a debate and then all of a sudden you don't want to do a debate on this. This applies to Dave too, because I saw he's been big into the Epstein file stuff too. And Michael Tracy said, "But you're not going to debate me on it." And he's like, "Well, yeah, I'm not going to debate you on it." So everybody wants to debate until they feel like they would probably lose, and which goes on to show, because Michael Tracy knows way more about it. But fine. I still would not, despite sharing Dave Smith, certainly his reservation about, well, for me it's reservation, for him it's absolute rejection and opposition in all cases, the war with Iran. I would not call America the single biggest supporter of terrorism. We're not a supporter of terrorism. The Iranian government funds Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthis, terrorist groups. So that's why we call them the major sponsor of terrorists, because they, more than any other nation, and maybe then it gets into what counts as terrorism, how you quantify things. Russia is inflicting more direct terror on the entire population of another country. China is inflicting terror on the, thousands or more political prisoners it has. So, whatever. Iran government, very bad. Hamas, Houthis, Hezbollah, very bad. I don't co-sign a lot of what Israel does, and I would take it's horrific. We killed
more than 150 schoolgirls.
So that will feel like terrorism to those people's families.
Hegseth had no response besides a week later.
That feels like terrorism to those people's families. Now, what Ben Shapiro will say is the difference is that was collateral damage.
For
we didn't set out to kill them. We set out to overthrow the regime. And, when Israel goes into the Gaza Strip and kills terrorists but blows up bunches of other buildings, it gets people killed. They're not trying to kill innocent people. They're trying to kill terrorists, but innocent people are in the way. They're embedded in a civilian population. And that explanation gets you somewhere. It's not entirely satisfying to people, though, which is what Ben Shapiro and supporters of Israel and supporters of this war have to reckon with, is that, like, yeah, ideally I could snap my fingers and just make Hamas and everyone who's a part of it disintegrate without killing anyone. But a lot of innocent people are dying, and we're right to take some umbrage at that, and to say that at some point, even if the destruction of guilty people is desired, some amount of civilian damage is not acceptable. It can't be acceptable at any. It can't be we dropped a nuke on Gaza and kill everyone there, man, women, and children. Like, we wouldn't say that's justified, right? If there's a criminal hiding in my apartment building, and you nuked my apartment building from orbit, and I died and all my neighbors died, and say, well, we got that one guy, we obviously wouldn't accept that that's justifiable, right? There's some level at which it's not okay. Now, if someone we took out the Ayatollah, and his I think his granddaughter or something died too in the bomb, well, we might say, well, that's sad, but that's justifiable collateral damage. I don't know where there are tough middle ground where it's hard to draw the line. Certainly, we should not have, and would have been more careful about the school. Seems just awful, and the death of the Ayatollah's granddaughter seems sad, but is going to happen in the course of something that would be justifiable.
I think when I'm thinking about this conversation to the lead-in, we talked about this war powers resolution. You talked about how this is like reactive instead of proactive, and the fact that it was struck down and on party lines is confusing, because at the same time that if we did put restrictions on what we can do next, we're already in the middle of a war, days into it. So if we said anything else has to go to Congress, it could put the U.S. in a really vulnerable situation that we didn't agree to even start. But alternatively, it could put us in a situation where perhaps Congress would vote to continue and have a conversation about what looks appropriate to us. Maybe we could see what the end game looks like and get a better understanding, because feet are to the fire. Time is sensitive about what the strategy is here and what the plan is, and have a succinct response from everybody involved. That's all on the same page, because you said regime change. And so that's why it was the Ayatollah that was killed, and then some younger family member. Okay, but if we were not trying to do regime change, then what was that? And why did that little girl die?
The vote.
And so that's...
The vote goes to show that you just could have done this the appropriate way, because this vote to say the war is not authorized, or to put some time limit on it, failed. So a vote, so by that, the vote to authorize it would have succeeded,
right?
Because you would have had all Republicans minus Rand Paul plus John Fetterman, and so it would have passed.
Well, maybe I think that we don't know, because some people might have just said, what situation does that put America in if we say the president has to kind of pause and come talk to us? That might not be effective strategy in the middle of a war. But maybe if been given the opportunity to think about that and go home and think about it,
would have voted for it.
Maybe, or maybe less. But they would have been able to see how their constituents feel. I mean, we are in a midterm.
If they didn't vote to pause it, that means they probably would have voted to go forward with it.
No, because pausing it means something different to me than starting it in the first place. Pausing it means that the president has already decidedly went in there and sent 50,000 troops.
I think you could have just done it
and blew up things. And so expecting a response from that nation is just going to happen now. And that's why we're seeing things happen. So even if we pause, they probably wouldn't. And that would put the U.S. in a vulnerable place, which is why I'm thinking that Congress was like, pause doesn't make sense. But had they been given the opportunity beforehand, who knows we can't go back in history and say what they would have thought, but maybe they would have given more thought to what the American people think, which is the people that put them in these positions in Congress. It's not to just do whatever you want. It's to think about the people at home, the people who are just adamantly against everything you do, that might be Democrats in your state, or the people that are Republicans that are expecting you to do America First policies. Like, there are a lot of people to think about, not just the people that are war hawks and think this is a good idea. So I think that's where we are. We have a lot more to talk about on Rising. Stay with us.